We got the big info drop on the PlayStation 5 and exactly what Sony's planning with it, and that's what I want to highlight in today's video. Specifically, take a look at the 10 huge facts that we know about the PlayStation 5 at this point. Now, these are things that are confirmed by Sony themselves, and these are all things you can rest assured will be a part of the PlayStation 5, so without further ado, let's get right into this. Number one, a feature that so many of us have wanted, but I want an extended version of this, is backwards compatibility, but all we know at this point is that it will feature PlayStation 4 backwards compatibility. Now, they demonstrated Marvel's Spider-Man running on a next-gen dev kit, so the fact that Spider-Man is running on a next-gen dev kit, well, that points to PlayStation 4 backwards compatibility being a part of the console. However, I think it was a formality that was going to be a part of the console. The real question is, are we going to get backwards compatibility extended beyond that? Are we going to be able to play PlayStation 3 games, PlayStation 2 games, PlayStation 1 games? That's ideally what I want to see, as that's really what Microsoft's been bringing to the table, not only with the next Xbox, I'm sure it'll be a part of that. However, with the Xbox One, you can play a lot of Xbox 360 games and a lot of original Xbox titles. I gave Sony a pass with the PlayStation 4 for a lot of reasons, mainly because when the Xbox One launched, it didn't have backwards compatibility, and the box that we were getting with the PS4 being $400 right out of the gate, hey, that was fine and dandy when it released, but now the competition has risen. You see what Microsoft is offering. Backwards compatibility has to be a part of the PlayStation 5, and the fact that it does have PlayStation 4 backwards compatibility, hey, that's great. I'm glad that I'm going to be able to play all the PlayStation 4 titles that I bought without having to lug around the box that is the PS4, because I know some of you guys are thinking, hey, you can just keep the box around. No, I want to move forward and only have one box in my room, so having PS4 backwards compatibility is huge, but let's get PS3, PS2, and PS1 backwards compatibility in there as well, crossing my fingers for that, but for now, we know we're going to be able to play our PS4 games. Next up, now I'm going to go through a lot of the different features that are going to be a part of the PlayStation 5, however, what that brings to the table is the price, and it was noted that the PlayStation 5's price will be appealing, whatever that really means. Now, appealing is a very broad term. To some people, a $300 price point is going to be appealing. For some people, a $600 price point is very appealing to them. Some people drop north of $1,000 on a gaming PC strictly to play video games, and for them, that's a very appealing option. Appealing is going to be very different for different people, so I don't really know what to make of it. However, given that we're going to go through all of the specs, I assume that the price has to be higher than the PlayStation 4's launch price. The PS4 launched at $400, and I just cannot see that being the case for the PS5. I also don't think it's that big of an issue if the PS5 is priced at, say, $500 or even $600. You guys will probably point to me, hey, go back to the PS3 that was priced at $600 and look at how that performed. Well, it was not only the price holding the PS3 back, it was the games library, it was the feature set, it was the online. There were a lot of issues with the PlayStation 3. I know it's fun to go back and meme on $599 US, and at that time that was a problem because the Xbox 360 offered something very similar with a vaster game library. Of course, the PS3 was going to get smacked, but it's very different in 2019 heading into 2020. The PlayStation 5's price can be a little bit more varied, and ideally what I've been touting for is let's have multiple models at launch. Let's have a budget-friendly option at, say, $400 or $500, and then let's have a beefy option at, say, $600 or $700. I don't think that's a bad idea instead of getting mid-gen upgrades like we did this generation with the PlayStation 4 Pro, but nonetheless, that is just speculation on my part. It is said that PlayStation 5's price will be appealing. I'm guessing $500. I think that they're going to be a little bit too gun-shy to go with that $600 price point, so I think $500 is something a little bit more palatable to most consumers. Number 3, a lot of you guys have been worried about the digital movement in gaming. Some of you guys like to have your physical media, and it was noted that the PlayStation 5 will continue to support physical media. Now, the question is, how many games will have a physical release? Because now we're seeing more and more digital exclusive games. The majority of titles still have a physical release, but we get a lot of downloadable only titles these days, and every generation there's been a shift to more downloadable titles and less physical games. I think for the most part there are still more physical games than digital exclusive games. Of course, all games are going to be available digitally, so if you do want to buy even your regular $60 games digitally, you'll have the option to do that, but the PlayStation 5 will also support its physical media. Number 4, this is something I personally was kind of concerned with, and that's the fact that so many of us had dropped, $250 or even as high as $400 or $500 with the PlayStation VR headset, and the concern was, yes, Sony is going to keep this a big element of the PlayStation 5. However, is it going to be a new VR headset that we're going to have to invest into, or can we carry over our existing headset And it was noted that we are going to be able to carry this generation's VR headset into next generation. Now, this begs a lot of questions. Is there going to be a next-gen VR headset design? I think that's entirely possible, especially if they do something like a wireless headset. I think that would really open the floodgates to everybody being open to VR. And will there be a next-generation headset with exclusive games? There's a lot of questions surrounding that, but PSVR will be supported into next generation. Also, this is something a lot of gamers are talking about, a new SSD built exclusively for the PlayStation 5. And it's a specialized SSD to really reduce load times. They specifically showed Spider-Man running on the PlayStation 4 Pro and then the next-gen dev kit. The PlayStation 4 Pro took about 15 seconds to load a scene up, while the next-gen dev kit took 0.8 seconds. Yes, it shrunk the load time that much. That means that this SSD is something pretty incredible, and we'll see how it turns out for a lot of games, especially the next-gen exclusive titles. Now, the question remains that, yes, this is yet another expensive component that's going to be a part of the PlayStation 5. If you compare this to, say, PC SSDs, 500GB SSDs are usually in the ballpark of $80 to $100, and then if you look at a 1TB SSD, which is what I think they are ultimately gonna want to do, then you're easily looking at north of $100, and that alone is going to take up a significant budget of the PlayStation. But they were adamant in getting an SSD. Apparently, a lot of developers asked for this, so hey, that is a great feature in the PlayStation 5. I'm just concerned about how that's going to affect pricing. Speaking of pricing, another element that concerns me about pricing is the fact that it's going to have ray tracing support. Now, this is incredible for a wide variety of different reasons. This is something that's only recently been introduced into PC gaming, and only the newest generation of NVIDIA GPUs have it, that being the RTX 2060, 2070, and 2080, and those GPUs are incredibly expensive. I believe the 2060, which is the cheapest GPU with ray tracing being an option, that goes for around $380 to $420, and that's if you find a pretty good deal on it. And that GPU doesn't even push ray tracing all that well. If you want to do ray tracing really, really well, then you're looking at a 2070 or a 2080, and those are incredibly expensive GPUs. The fact that the PlayStation is looking to enable ray tracing in games, that has me concerned about the pricing of the GPU, which we have some details on, but not a lot. But that is an incredible element in the PlayStation 5, and that means games are going to look even better. And that brings me to point number 7, which I think is a little bit of a meme, but it was touted that the PlayStation 5 will support up to 8K resolution. Now, I take that very much with a grain of salt, because yes, it'll support 8K resolution, but what games are we playing in 8K? Are we playing 8K Tetris, 8K Pong? Alright, that might be one thing, but are we playing 8K New God of War? Are we playing 8K Horizon 2? I just don't think that's gonna be feasible. Think about how demanding it is to run games at 4K, and then you want to throw in ray tracing, and you want to bump that resolution up to 8K. Man, 8K TVs aren't even the standard at this point. 8K as a resolution isn't even the standard. Even in late 2020, I don't think 8K is something a lot of gamers are gonna look at. Also, it's a very recent thing where people have upgraded to 4K. I think 8K is a little bit of a meme, but nonetheless, it was touted that PlayStation 5 will support 8K. And hey, maybe that just means for the media playback, maybe that means for some lower end games. That'll be pretty cool, but if you're expecting to play the next God of War Horizon in 8K, I think you're gonna be sorely disappointed. Next up, as far as the CPU goes, we do know that it's going to have an 8-core CPU based on 3rd gen AMD Ryzen 7nm architecture, that's Zen 2. So an 8-core CPU in the PlayStation 5 is pretty great. The CPU has been one area where PlayStation and consoles in general have really lagged behind on. They can upgrade that through mid-gen upgrades, but you only see so many upgrades in any given generation that by the end of the generation, you're kind of left suffocated a little bit. So hopefully more details come out about it, but an 8-core CPU should lift off some of the handcuffs. It really depends on its clock speed, and hopefully that's up to snuff as well. Number 9, as far as the GPU goes, we know that it's going to be a custom GPU based on AMD Radeon Navi hardware. So the fact that it has ray tracing and the fact that it's running on AMD hardware is a pretty telling sign. AMD and Sony have always been in bed together, at least going back with the PlayStation 4, and it seems like as far as creating hardware that is consumer friendly, budget friendly, AMD is really the route to go. I mean, you can really make that comparison to the PC side of things as well, where if you're building a budget gaming PC, you really want to get AMD hardware, and you still get pretty solid performance. I think that's what Sony's going for here, but even the GPU has to be pretty beefy if it's supporting 8K, if it's supporting ray tracing, if it's looking to run next generation titles at least 4K. If they're touting 8K, you think 4K would have to be the standard with all of the games. You've got to get a pretty good GPU in there. And lastly, number 10, the PlayStation 5 will not be released in 2019. I think that was pretty much a formality, and we also know that studios are already working on games. I think that was a foregone conclusion as well. I don't think anyone really thought that the PlayStation 5 was going to be released released in 2019, given that we still have game releases like The Last of Us Part 2, and you really don't want to underwhelm those releases with, say, a PlayStation 5 launching around the same time. I know Last of Us 1 released a couple months before the PlayStation 4, but it was still like 4 to 5 months before, and you had some time for that game to be the real swan song to the PlayStation 4. And I think in a lot of ways, The Last of Us Part 2 will be the swan song to the PlayStation 4, but nonetheless, you want to at least give that game a couple months to shine before releasing a next generation console. I do believe Last of Us Part 2 will be released this fall, and the PlayStation 5 probably won't be released until holiday 2020. But other studios that could be working on titles, I absolutely think Guerrilla Games is working on a game. We know that Sony Santa Monica Studio is working on the next God of War. As far as first party, those are the two major studios, and if we could get God of War or if we could get a Guerrilla Games project ready for the launch of the PlayStation 5, that would be awesome. Of course, Guerrilla did bring forth Killzone Shadowfall for the launch of the PlayStation 4. Unfortunately, that didn't turn out all too well, but a new Killzone to showcase the power of the PlayStation 5, I think that would be awesome as a launch title. But just know, it's not coming in 2019, probably holiday 2020, and some of your favorite studios are already working on games for it. And that's gonna conclude this video. Again, we are inching closer and closer to the release of the PlayStation 5, still a little ways away, probably holiday 2020, so you still have a good 16 months or so to utilize your PlayStation 4, check out all of those games until the PS5 drops, but expect to hear a lot more information. Of course, the main things we're concerned about at this point, price. Launch games we're not going to hear about for a little bit, probably not until early next year, and the box itself, I think that's a point that's going a little bit under the radar. How's the box itself look? I thought PlayStation 4 was aesthetically pleasing enough. Hopefully the PlayStation 5 can hold up. That's going to conclude this video. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.